What's up, everybody? I'm Stella Chung, and joining me today are the stars of The Right Stuff, Colin O'Donoghue and Jake McDorman. Guys, how's it going?
Hi, how are you?
Doing pretty well. Quarantining, cutting hair.
Yeah, I was going to say, I hope quarantine is treating you guys well.
It's fun.
Yeah, how is it in Ireland?
It's good. It's getting there. It's it's good. It's getting a little bit easier. So Jake loves Ireland, by the way, just so you know.
I do love Ireland.
So, The Right Stuff is National Geographic's upcoming series about America's first astronauts in the early days of the post-World War II space race. Colin, The Right Stuff was a book first, then a movie in the 80s, and now it's going to be Nat Geo's first scripted series on Disney+. So why is now the right time to revisit the stories of these death-defying pilots?
I think it's a good time for it now. Seems to be an increase on people fascinated with manned space flight and stuff, and particularly with SpaceX and the Dragon and stuff very recently. You know, also right now, as it is, where everybody's pretty much in lockdown, you know, it's always great to tell stories about, you know, people who are considered heroes and to sort of give hope and some sort of, you know, kind of, I guess, release for people to be able to, you know, sort of look at these guys and see that they, you know, what they'd gone through. You know, they all lived through wars and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I think that it's a timely point to sort of retell the story, to be honest.
So I play Alan Shepard. He was a test pilot, a Navy test pilot before he joined the Mercury program. He's the first American in space, and he's a lot of fun to play. He liked fast cars. He was hard drinking fighter jock kind of through and through. In fact, all these guys had such a unique relationship with death and with fear in general. For somebody that lived so large and had such a boisterous personality, he also was really, really protective of his privacy, which was kind of an interesting juxtaposition to play. Because obviously, you know, he was going for something that would, you know, put him permanently in the history books, but at the same time wanted to shield his private life and his family from the spotlight as much as he could. So he was kind of an interesting paradox of a guy.
And Colin, you play Gordon Cooper. What can you tell us about him?
Similar to Alan Shepard, Gordo was a test pilot. He was in the Army, an Army test pilot. He was also the youngest of the 7 astronauts. And he ended up being the last of them to go up. And I think still to this day, he has the most solo orbits around Earth out of anyone in the world.
So you mentioned the 7. Who are the 7 for folks who might not be familiar with that?
The Mercury Seven are a group of test pilots from the military, the Air Force, and the Navy. They're recruited from, 180 potential applicants. And at the time, at the inception of NASA, Bob Gilruth and Chris Kraft, who were in charge of kind of making this short list, weren't even sure that any of these 180 or however many it was would be interested. And just about every single one of them signed up. So they had to whittle that down to 7. So those are the 7 guys that it came down to, and they were put through all sorts of training and kind of tests at Lovelace Clinic to narrow then that list down to who was going to go up first, who was going to go up second, and then third. But this was to, you know, go up against the Russians during the space race. They had put up Sputnik, a satellite. They had gotten, was it Laika, the dog? Did Laika go up next? Anyway, they were ahead of us just pretty much every step of the way. And so this was the team that they pulled together to basically try to beat them to outer space.
What do you guys personally feel is the right stuff required to be an astronaut?
I think it's something that's not really quantifiable. The right stuff, really. You know what I mean? It's an amalgam of a whole load of different things. You know, like a lack of fear. You know, just pure self-belief. There's a whole gamut of things that I think make the right stuff. I'm sure a small element of luck as well. You know, like these guys, when they were test pilots, they didn't know whether or not the machines that they were about to take off in were going to blow up or not.
Yeah, which not to mention every single time they'd test a rocket without, you know, anybody in it, it would explode almost. without fail. I mean, test pilots too. We learned a lot about that culture and what that all entails. And it's basically getting in these fighter planes or jets that you push these things to their limits to basically record for manufacturing where those limits are. So, it's not just flying in one, operating one, doing evasive maneuvers in one. It's pushing all of those to the point where like the bolts are about to fall off the machine so they can then land it safely and go, all right, here's where you don't want to take it. That was one of the common threads that you'd find through test pilots. I think like the average life expectancy for a test pilot's some like 1 in 3 or something, So it was a job that was living on the edge all the time. And so their ability to maintain calm, maintain functionality, and kind of perform their task in a situation that would have most people afraid, along with all the stuff that, is kind of intangible and abstract, like Colin was mentioning, I think goes into the right stuff. Enough to know that I don't have it. That's basically.
So will the show replace the movie for modern media, or is it kind of a complementary addition to the 1983 film?
I think it's kind of a standalone, and I would hope that it'd be a standalone in its own right. I think I would hope that the stories that we're telling about these guys, will be able to stand the test of time on its own, alongside the book and the movie.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. No way do I think it would replace either the book or the movie at all. I think, having roughly 8 hours of television, it allows you to sometimes tease apart more, subtle parts of the story than just the events themselves. So that was something, that was kind of a luxury that we were allotted, that, if you were trying to tell the whole story in a 2.5 hour movie, you wouldn't have that opportunity, I guess. So I guess that's in one way that it's different. But no, I think if anything, they complement each other, and it's like Colin said, it should stand alone, side by side.
So most importantly, when can we watch this on Disney Plus?
We're allowed to say that it is. It's coming to Disney Plus this fall.
This fall, and for those in Europe, that's this autumn.
Okay. Okay, so we'll have to keep an eye out for The Right Stuff when it blasts off on Disney Plus later this year in the fall. Colin and Jake, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.